Hello and welcome to the Unfuck Your Biz podcast, a show for creatives to encourage and inspire through actionable legal, tax, money, and business topics. I'm Braden Drake, an author, lawyer, tax pro, and educator. If you are ready to get your legal and tax shit legit, you are in the right place. But before we fully dive in, here is a quick word from my sponsors. This episode is brought to you by my free training, The 3 Legal and Tax Mistakes Made by New and Experienced Business Owners and How You Can Avoid Them. Here's the thing. There's a few key things we've all got to do to make sure we unfuck our biz. I've seen all the mistakes and I know how to help you get past them. So here's what I want you to do. Go to www.unfuckyourbiz.com, sign up for the free training, watch it, and do at least one of the homework assignments I share in the masterclass. Promise? Okay, now let's dive into the episode. Well, hello there, and welcome back to the Unfuck Your Biz podcast. On today's episode, got a little bit something special going on. We're going to try out our very first panel podcast. So after the episode, let me know. Shoot me a DM. Let me know if you liked it. I have 3 different guests today. How's everyone doing?
Good.
Doing good, Braden? Awesome. So what we're going to talk about today is the Profitable Pro Bundle. So my podcast listeners kind of heard the intro to this on Tuesday because I interviewed Renee, the lovely and incredible Renee Dallo, the creator of the Profitable Pro Bundle. Today, I am joined by 3 other contributors to the bundle. So together, we are 4 out of about 30 contributors to the bundle. So I thought it would be fun if I had you all on. And we just did a little bit of a chat about the bundle, your contributions. We could talk about it. So let's start with Brenda. Brenda, can you introduce yourself to my audience? Let everyone know what it is that you do, who you help, all that good stuff.
Sure. My name is Brenda Cadman. I am a website educator and a Canva educator. I'm based in beautiful, snowy Prince Edward Island in Canada. And my contribution to the bundle is a Canva 101 mini course. I think that a lot of folks, either they're using Canva already or they have wanted to use it and they didn't know how to get started, or even if they are feeling, like they kind of know their way around, some just need a little bit more of a hand holding to figure out how to use some of the basic features. So this was a product that a lot of people have been requesting, and I finally took the time to put together something that will help people introduce how to use Canva the right way.
Nice. I love that. Canva is amazing. I feel like pretty much everyone uses Canva at this point. I create my course textbooks in Canva. I was just telling you before we hit record that we now use the video recording of this for podcast graphics. And just this weekend, my VA figured out how to do that in Canva. So who knew, right? There's like so many useful tools in there that I wasn't even aware of. We learn about every day, right? And Brenda knows them all. She's going to teach them to us.
Maybe not all of them, especially since they like to change it. As soon as you feel like you're really confident using something, they like to introduce a new feature. But I think one of the things we're noticing is that Canva is really becoming, it started out as a graphic design tool and it still has that component, but it's becoming much more of a business communication tool more than just a graphic design tool. So it's going to be interesting to see where that goes over the coming years.
Okay, business communication tool. Let's circle back to that in a little bit because I'm curious what you mean by that. Okay.
All right.
So next guest, Gabby, how's it going?
Hey guys, so excited to be here. Going well. My name is Gabby Pinkerton. I have a wedding planning business, but I pivoted in 2020 and I am teaching wedding pros how to market their business on Pinterest. So if you guys were part of if you guys got the first Profitable Pro bundle, which was called Profitable Planner bundle at the time, I gave you guys my whole course on how to use Pinterest for business for wedding pros and creatives. This time around, I am sharing my Tailwind mini course. So basically more so how to automate the Pinterest process. I know we do not all have that many hours in a day. I personally love spending my time on Pinterest, but a lot of you do not. And so I made it easy for you guys, and I'm sharing that in the bundle this year. So I'm really pumped.
So can you give everyone a super, super quick overview on what Tailwind is if they're completely clueless?
Yeah, it's basically a scheduler. I know that there are other schedulers that allow you to use Pinterest on its platform, but the reason we love Tailwind, and you'll hear about it a lot more now that it's kind of, on your radar, is that you have access to what's called Tailwind communities, which was formerly called Tailwind tribes. And basically, if you add your content to a very niche Tailwind community, your content has the power to kind of explode within that community and be shared so easily amongst other users in that niche market. So it has helped us a ton for our wedding planning business. But again, this will be open to not just wedding pros, but all sorts of creatives that can use it. In fact, we have a lot of people in the education space now that are, pivoting their wedding business to education, and they're using that in the same way.
Yeah, I was told about a year ago that it was then Tailwind Tribes. Thankfully, they changed the name, now Tailwind Communities, that it was no longer like that useful and beneficial. Has that like since changed again, and that's why you're teaching it now? Or did I get wrong advice to begin with?
Honestly, I've heard both, but I will say for us and in the wedding industry specifically and the other education spaces that we're working with, it's still pretty effective. Tailwind, much like any platform, loves to have that kind of community sense to it too. And so I really think this is their way of doing it. I'm still using it. Like I said, they've come out with other features too. The big one that they're pushing right now is called Tailwind Create. So it is almost not quite a competitor to Canva. In fact, I think we still use Canva way more than Tailwind Create, but Tailwind Create has the power to kind of mass create pins for you in a matter of seconds. It has its limitations. That's why we still use Canva on top of that. But I honestly, I still use Tailwind communities, and it's still working really well for us. I think you've got to be very strategic with it, and don't just dump a bunch of pins and not participate. That's the thing, is you have to also repin other people's content. And it's not just about putting your own stuff on there.
Okay, I'm definitely gonna have my VA go through your Pinterest course so we can maybe implement that into our workflow, because we're not doing that right now. Love it. All right, Henry, how are you doing? Tell us a little bit about your business.
Hey, Braden. Henry Chen here, right? We're all on Clubhouse, so we always want to introduce ourselves for all our listeners. But I just want to first give you a shout out for, thank you for having me as a guest, but also to managing 3 guests. I've been a former podcast host, and just one other guest is a lot of focus, so let alone 3 others. So kudos and shout out, and thank you for having me as a guest. But yeah, I've been a long time wedding photographer based in Southern California, over 14 years. But in the last few years, I transitioned a bit more to helping wedding professionals, educators, and creatives utilize this new marketing strategy called chat marketing. Kind of think of it as messenger marketing with a bit of automation. So it was funny when Brenda mentioned business communication, and Gabby said a little bit about automation with Pinterest. So it's kind of like those things, and then adding on a bit more, but really it's helping businesses connect with their potential couples, clients, consumers, and using mobile apps like Messenger, Instagram, DM, even text messaging, and automating that a bit. So these days, I'm just sharing that information with the community, and also building chat systems for other business. So it's a little bit about what I'm up to.
Yeah, I know for a lot of people, like chat systems are probably a totally foreign concept. They've probably received chat messages before, not really realizing that it is. So let's maybe do like a little bit of a hypothetical on how this would work. So Gabby's still actively running, you're still actively running your wedding planning business, right? Okay, so Gabby has, Brenda is inquiring with Gabby as a potential client and goes on Gabby's website. When would like a chat system automate? Would it be like as soon as she lands on the website, like after she fills out an intake form? Like when would you use this?
Yeah, and I'll be very brief with this because it could be in a whole other episode, but right away to what you said, Braden. So as soon as, let's pretend that Brenda, hey, she's interested in learning more about Pinterest, maybe not sure if she wants to learn it herself, but maybe get somebody to help her out with that. So also, she may have never heard of Gabby's business before. Maybe she found it maybe through Pinterest or SEO or so. So she lands, and right away, there's a little chat widget in the lower right-hand corner, pops up, connected to Messenger, just asking like, hey, any questions you have, or even if it's something down to what type of service you're interested. So that's one way the chat system is all automated. So Gabby does not have to be in front of a computer or even a VA trying to respond back within seconds. So Brenda pushes a button, now becomes basically a lead or a subscriber on Gabby's end without her having to do a single thing. So that's one way. Another thing would be maybe on the contact page. So maybe they fill out the contact form or they don't, but there could be a link. They click on that link, immediately become a lead that way as well. So there's lots of ways to use this. Even like on Pinterest, maybe there's a link directly to the messenger system. So it's almost like very seamless. There's no need to type a lot of stuff out to become a lead. So that's what makes this really, exciting, but also almost, I don't want to say no brainer, but kind of like just having this set up, you should be getting a few more leads just naturally because people are looking us up and want to probably connect with us.
Yeah, I'm actually really interested on integrating this into my website because right now I have some call to actions that are just like DM me on Instagram if you have questions. Because sometimes, like, I'm trying to sell digital products, right? Especially, and then you can't answer every question on an FAQ, right? And even if you could, like, are people actually going to read them? So sometimes it's easier just to be like, watch your question. And really, it's just, it's at that point, it's like an invitation to let me like sell you something if we can make sure it's a right fit. So like the opportunities there are pretty awesome. And that's a really cool area that I haven't really heard anyone else talking about.
You can personalize it, right? Like, I think that's the thing that I always is concerning about chatbots is like, oh no, is it going to sound like I'm a robot talking to you? But you can make it, your answers is your voice, right?
Yeah, definitely, Gabby. And I was like, I don't want to be mindful and turn our this episode into about chat marketing, but absolutely you can personalize it. Now, before you forget, I'm a student, of course, being an educator in the Pro Bundle, but always wanting to learn, I'm excited to hear more about and take all of your courses and programs in the bundle because I know very little about Canva for Brenda and also Pinterest. And I know for me, like I would absolutely hire somebody to help me do all of that versus me trying to learn it. But at the same time, I know some of us might want to learn and invest in a program. So the reason I share that is like kind of a little side thing, which is for our listeners here, and Braden, certainly for the legal and tax side, like I have professional to do that. So knowing where we want to spend our time and also probably our, maybe income to our focus is really important. So like tying that back into the chatbot to personalize it, not only with like their names and where they are in the so-called customer's journey, but also what they might be looking for. If they tap a button and say, hey, you know what, I want to learn more about your course versus another button saying more about your done for you service, that's going to be a completely different experience afterwards. So absolutely you can customize it even down to what you show them afterwards.
Gabby, are you gonna implement some chatbots on your website now?
Oh, I've already had a one-on-one conversation with Henry, and I've been on like half of his clubhouse. So like, yeah, it's on my list of things to do eventually, but one step at a time.
Yeah, I'm excited to. Well, all four of us are course creators. I was gonna say Brenda, because you're also an Amy Porterfield student, so we have the same kind of system. It would be really interesting to start working it into like webinar promos and all that kind of stuff.
Well, and I'm also coming at it from the agency side. I still run a website development company as well. And my brain's starting to turn here about thinking about ways that this could be incorporated for other clients and just the potential for using a feature like that as part of a website development and connecting those platforms. And I've been on the kind of the user end of this in terms of one of the chat marketing flows or whatever you call it that Henry has set up just through Clubhouse. And it's far more powerful and far more visual than I realized it could be. I think my experience being on the receiving end of chat marketing bots in the past has been very slimmed down, very bare bones kind of experience. And I mean, it was interesting, but I didn't realize quite how far that had come. So I'm eager to learn more about that as well. So I may be jumping into your course too. So.
Yeah, I think that's a nice thing. I think we're all going to. One thing we talked about, so inside look at how things are working over here in Braden land. We actually had this conversation last week and I fucked up our Zoom recording. So we're kind of like repeating some of the conversation here. But one of the things we talked about on our first recording was I mentioned I'm going to be buying a copy of the bundle for each of my virtual assistants because there's so much content, right? Not all of us can go through all 30 courses. That's not really the goal, right? No one gets a trophy or a ribbon for completing every single one. We kind of have to like pick and choose what's going to be right for our business. And the awesome thing is there there are going to be educators who are focusing on lots of different angles of business. So my course, Unfuck Your Finance, is going to be all about personal finances, paying down debt, that kind of stuff, on really the personal side of your life that kind of touches your business. Other people will be working on operations. So how you work with your clients and ensure that you're giving them all of the best services. And then really, Gabby and Henry, for sure, your courses touch on the marketing side. Brenda, Canva can kind of cover everything, right? Because we can use it to create Pinterest pins, which is marketing. We can also use it to create client content, which is operations. But the beautiful part is about a bundle like this is that you can kind of create your own like semester long curriculum, so to speak. So you could say, oh, I really, really want to work on my marketing. So I'm going to take Brenda's course to figure out how to create beautiful Pinterest pins. And then I'll take Gabby's course to actually learn how to schedule them through Tailwind. And then I'll take Alea's course on email marketing. And then that's going to be like my focus. So I guess I don't really have a question there. That was a really long-winded statement. But if any of you have anything else you'd like to contribute to that, chime in.
Where's a raise hand feature here?
I know, raise your hand. It's like,
right?
I'm really killing this hosting situation. I didn't even ask a question.
This is Henry Chen speaking, right? And also I want to be mindful of to not interrupt each other, but also, I was like, ladies first, Gabby and Brenda. But yeah, I think it's so important that we're being very intentional of what we need to work on our business. Like we shouldn't, course, hopefully we get the bundle, but it shouldn't be, hey, I'm going to watch everything or even a quarter of it because, I bought it or I'm supposed to, but more so, where do I need the most help in my business? Is it a time thing? Is it a focus thing? Is it a expertise thing? Like what is lacking? You mentioned marketing and also operations there. And it's kind of like the foundation when I build a chapter, like marketing, there's sales and operations. Those are like the three main pillars. So where in our business are we needing help? Is it on the front end? Is it converting that into consultations and therefore bookings? That's more the sales. Or is it the day-to-day operations, our existing past clients, and then finding I would even say one resource, right? One at a time, one package or one program, one course, get that done, start implementing a few things, and then maybe overlap that with another course, but certainly to probably not try to watch 10 courses in a sitting, but more so one at a time. So that would be maybe.
Yeah. And I think it's also going to depend on the courses you choose, right? Because I know like some of the, they're not all courses necessarily. So some of the contributions to the bundle is like a live workshop, which could be a 1 or 2 hour time commitment. My last bundle contribution was like a 1 hour long course. This time I'm contributing like a full 4 module course. So it's probably going to take people like a month to get through. But others you could, choose 4 and go through like each one in a day because they might be an hour. So it kind of depends like how you want to do that.
I can't remember if you said this, Braden, but to reiterate that these are all new courses that people are basically launching somewhat for the first time. There have maybe been some soft launches or it's been advertised, but like there's been no major launch. And this is the first time that some of these courses are being put out on the internet for people. So that's really exciting because it's kind of, first come, that's not sure, like exclusivity to the courses.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's really important. This is something I talked to Renee about because one of like kind of like the core beliefs in my business is I'm never gonna, if I've charged $300 to my own audience for something in the past, I'm not going to toss that into a $99 bundle just because like I don't feel very good about that. So I always want to create something new whenever I do this, or offer something that like people haven't paid more than that for, which is what pretty much everyone is doing. Lots of new content. I also told Renee, I was like, I can't build a new course every time you launch the bundle. But the nice thing is this time around, I was actually hesitant as to whether I was going to participate, but I already had it on my to-do list to create this course because it's only going to be open to my Unfuck Your Biz alumni students. And I was like, well, I'll launch it one time to non-students just as part of this bundle because it would be an exciting contribution. Brenda, did you create, because I know this is a new intro course, are you creating it just for the bundle?
No, it just was really good timing because I put this out, oh gosh, the months are all kind of blending together at this point, but I think I put it out in January because I had it had been on my radar for some time. I had a lot of people saying, you have to create an entry-level product. Not everybody wants to go into a $300 Canva program, though that's available as well, but some just need that guiding hand to kind of get comfortable with the basics. And then Renee reached out to me about the bundle, which I did last time, and it was a great experience, and I love her and I love all the people that she associates with. And I thought, oh, maybe this is a good fit, and it just, the timing was just perfect.
Can I talk about my favorite thing in Canva, which is actually like extremely simple? So
I'm always curious to hear what people love, because sometimes it's the simplest of features, but they're so life-changing.
Yes. Well, first of all, for personal use, I love the background remover tool, because I use Canva slides to create mood boards of my own interior design. And when my VAs go into the Canva account, they think it's so funny, because it's like all this business stuff and then a lot of photos just like pulled from the West Elm website. But other than that, the brand kits are amazing. And I think, Brenda, you have to have a pro account to use those, right?
You do. You can access the brand kit page, and you can set up a very small color palette if you are on the free account, but I think it's limited to 3 colors. And if you try to add a 4th, it's going to it's going to tell you, you have to upgrade to add more. Also, if you want multiple color palettes, you have to upgrade, but you're not going to be able to upload your logos into that space. And the big deal breaker for a lot of people is you're not going to be able to upload custom fonts or have access to their wider variety of pro fonts if you are on a free account. And for a lot of us, unless you happen to have brand fonts that are within their free fonts, which is funny, mine actually are. So, but most people are going to have either custom fonts or Google fonts that are not including that free batch, and you need to have the brand kit feature to do that, or the pro.
I love that, because one of the things I get complimented all the time, like insert hair toss here, is a lot of people will tell me, oh, your branding, Braden, is so consistent. Like whenever I see an Instagram story, like I know it's Braden's before I even see your name in the corner. And they're like, how do you do that? And I was like, well, it's not really that complicated. I have 5 brand colors. I have the hex codes for them on a Google Doc, but they're all preloaded into Canva. Like I use the Poppins family of fonts in Canva. I don't think they're anything fancy. Poppins bold for headings, medium for subheadings, light for font, like light for body text. That's all it is that I really do.
Yeah.
Any templates, you can just change the colors to your brand colors. Easy peasy. And what I always tell people to do, and Brenda, I found this out a few months ago, is if you ever need to come up with like a brand identity, this is where all the graphic designers probably want to like murder me, because they're, this could be done in a much more sophisticated manner. But is to find like a piece of artwork or something that you like with the color palette, and then you can upload that into Canva, and it will tell you what all the different hex codes are that are used in that photo. And then you can pick like 4 of them, and those can become your brand colors. It's like an easy way to hack a brand.
And as long as you're doing that in concert with making sure that the brand color palette you're choosing is in line with who your ideal client avatar is, then that makes sense. If your ideal client is a luxury our luxury wedding couples, you're not going to want to have bright primary colors that you would normally associate with a daycare. So making sure that you want to have some sort of consistency and cohesiveness with who you're serving, and making sure that your color palette is actually going to appeal to them. And I do think this is one little, a lot of people will come into Canva and they don't even use the brand kit feature because they don't have a brand kit to bring into it, and they're just choosing colors they think are pretty. They're choosing fonts that they think are pretty, and it doesn't have that consistency that you mentioned. Like you said, people can identify your graphics before they even see your name on it, and that sort of brand recognition builds trust and loyalty. And it's important not to get caught up in all the options. I think sometimes people get overwhelmed and a little, they get a little bit distracted by all of the options that are available to them. And there's all these beautiful script fonts and all these beautiful color palettes. And you can
just say no to script fonts, people.
Just say no to script fonts.
And can I note Sorry, I was going to say script fonts are a no-no on Pinterest because of mobile
Readability.
readability. Yeah, don't
Yeah.
do it.
Same on websites. It's one of the things I'm always preaching is contrast and readability are so important in terms of usability of your website. But they can be used, you know, a little bit here and there, but you have to use them sparingly. But people get really caught up in all of these options. And I get accused sometimes of trying to crush people's creativity, and that's not it. The brand kit is actually going to make Canva so much easier for you to use if you know exactly, if you have these guidelines to stay within. So that's why I love that feature. It's so central to how I teach Canva.
I think for some people, at least for me, it's like if you allow yourself to be endlessly creative, it's almost like you never get anything done because there's no limitations. Oh, yeah. Whereas if you're like, I can be creative, but within the box of like these colors and these fonts, then, you know, you can still flex your creativity a little bit, but get shit done. I'm curious if Henry, maybe you haven't thought of this before, but I'm curious if we have any of the same challenges when it comes to branding for ideal clients. Because when I came up with my brand is pretty masculine as far as the colors. It's black, navy, dark green. And most of my audience are female creatives, a lot of wedding professionals, and all of their branding is like blush pink with script fonts. What's interesting though is I haven't found that the branding is like disconnect has really made a huge difference until I started getting into Facebook ads, which is fascinating. I told my brand photographer we might go do like a hot pink photo shoot in Palm Springs just so I get better conversions on my ads.
Yeah, no, that's definitely something I've always struggled with. So I'm, you know, kind of like, ooh, hopefully I don't have too many, script fonts on my site when Brenda or Gabby mentioned that. But I'll be the first to admit, not only am I not very educated with Canva, like my attention span, my patience is very short. So if I do need something, I'm the person that goes to you know, a third-party company, you know, Upwork or somewhere. I'll hire somebody, right? Because I know my limitations pretty well. But at the same time, absolutely appreciate everything that an amazing like graphic designer or somebody specialized in Pinterest would do, and certainly like legal and everything. Like I'm gonna get a CPA or a lawyer. But for the chat marketing side and branding, the interesting thing is, like for example, even if it's Instagram, I have an Instagram account for my business, but there's a bunch of videos that I just repurposed. Terrible strategy, right? I don't think anybody's on, but it was just a place to have as a repository. But it's really just my own personal Instagram account. So sort of my way of quote unquote branding chat marketing has been people seeing how, I guess how I live my life. Like, hey, I'm out hiking. I'm spending time with my 3-year-old at the park. And indirectly, the reason I'm able to do that is because I have this system in place, having the peace of mind that I don't have to get back to leads right away, or they're automatically being followed up. I also share the results of my, you know, students and colleagues. So that's sort of my quote unquote color scheme or branding. I think I did hire somebody to put something together, but I'm not really, you know, using it. Of course, with the website, there are some colors like a light beige, some whites, and a little bit more towards the wedding-esque side of things. But I think when Brenda mentioned earlier, because once you kind of go into a demo, if you will, it could be very visual. You can have photos, videos, you can use GIFs or GIFs. So very much not only personalized, but very visual as well, especially on a mobile device. And it's also very digestible. So I guess in my sense with like, if this was a Facebook ad, I share more of course, wedding photos as a soon to be former wedding photographer, but it's when they like, oh, I see how it works. It's like through a video clip, and that also really kind of connects the dots.
Yeah, one of the things you mentioned in there that I find really interesting is that you said you don't really necessarily have the patience for Canva. And I think it's interesting to highlight because we all have that, right? So I always joke that I love Canva so much and it's an easy way for me to like lose track of time when I should be working on other stuff. But I don't really have the, Gabby, I don't really have the patience for Pinterest, which is why I hired someone else to do it, right? But this is the interesting thing. Like we all are going to get to the point where we can't wear all the hats in our business. You know, hopefully we can afford to hire sooner rather than later. But until then, it's like, what are you going to take the time to learn? What are you not going to learn? And then you also mentioned, Henry, like Upwork. This is a really good point as well, because for me, it's like DIYing has its place and hiring professionals has its place. So I hired a professional graphic designer to design the cover of my book. Unfuck Your Biz, like my actual book. But I'm like, when it comes to creating my course support documents, I have a 400-page textbook that's been designed. So that, like, I bought a template on Creative Market. I edited it all in Canva. Like, can you imagine how much I'd have to pay a graphic? Just like, it probably took me over 100, 200 hours to create that. It would have cost me like $10,000 to hire a designer to do it. So I think knowing like when we're going to hire, when we're going to DIY, which is interesting. So Gabby, I'm assuming that you never got to the point where you're like, I really need to hire someone for Pinterest, because you really enjoy it, right?
Yeah, and that's funny. I enjoy writing. So blogging and Pinterest for me are kind of fun, which I think is really counterintuitive to a lot of people out there. That's something they dread. But I think it's also something they dread because they don't know how to do it right. And they feel like it's a very time consuming, and it is. And so they don't know how to kind of go with it with the strategy. But that being said, how we run our Pinterest business now is it's what we call like agency style. So I, as the CEO, do the high level strategy for the clients and kind of some of the onboarding process, getting to know their business and getting them set up. But then I have a caption writer, so a Pinterest caption writer, and I have a pin designer, because as much as I tried to put those two separate categories under one person, brains work differently, right? So like I feel imagery and design is kind of one side of our brain, and then maybe writing and more logical SEO research was another part. And so those needed to be separated into two. And so they work really well together in communicating, but they're two separate businesses. So that we did both, right? I assumed some of the high level strategy, but then I also outsourced and made sure that we have a team that's really good at each of their roles.
Gabby, I'm curious. So you talked about how you do the high level strategy, which is awesome. I'm curious, how often in your business do you see that a lot of people's problem, if they're already running Pinterest, is actually a content strategy problem and not like an actual Pinterest problem?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's the thing. They don't either have quality content or they're not dry. It's a mix of both. I would say, Braden, that's a really great question. Part of it is they don't know how to drive traffic efficiently from Pinterest to a platform that they own. So that's easily fixable. But sometimes we get to said platform and there's blog posts there's no call to action. There's no clear message. The pictures look like crap, I can only do so much. And I will be very careful where I'll analyze those clients and I'll say, listen, I would be taking your money and doing you a disservice if I was driving traffic to the crap website that you have. So that's why we actually started to add on a blogging service, because I was like, listen, I can't fix the rest of your website, but I know how to blog strategically. And I say this in the wedding industry as a whole, whether it be education. Don't ask me to blog about the top 10 gadgets for tech gurus, like absolutely no idea. But we create call to actions. We know what links that are inbound links, outbound links, like headlines headers that people don't even know they have to have on their blog post. So at least we know that we can drive it to a platform that is going to turn into something. Now, but sometimes it's like putting lipstick on a pig. I can't make miracles happen here.
You know what the nice thing is, Gabby? I'm finding as many ways as I can to circle this back to the bundle. I feel like I'm doing an okay job. Let me know. But I feel like there's definitely gonna be content in the bundle that's focused on content strategy, because again, like the point here is that you can have an amazing Pinterest, but you can't just be sending people to your inquiry form, right? You can't just be like,
No.
Look at my Pinterest pin, now go and directly hire me. No, you got to send them to content, build, like, know, and trust,
Yes.
all this other marketing bullshit lingo that you've all heard before. You got to get them in your customer journey, your funnel, your whatever. And that's what we're talking about here. So it's got to be a holistic picture. This is something, a lot of this stuff did not even really start to come together for me until I was like 3 years into business. I thought I knew what I was doing before that. Sure, 2 years from now, I'll say that I don't know what I'm doing right now, but that's how it goes.
I had a quick question for you, Braden, if it's okay. How did you determine, like what you just said right now about, hey, 2 years ago, I was at this place in my business. And also you mentioned things like, funnels and all that stuff. So it's good to kind of throw things at a wall, but knowing exactly where to focus on. So did you have a mentor? Did you get a few courses?
Yes.
Or how did you kind of
Yeah,
master
I've
to where you are right
spent a lot of money on courses for sure. The first course I joined was Digital Course Academy, which is Amy Porterfield's course. Brenda was also a student in DCA. That's actually how we first got connected. I remember because you were on my old podcast, like way back when. I say way back when, it was like a year and a half ago. Feels like forever ago, right? But I took Digital Course Academy, created and launched my first course, which was called Legally Launched. I still technically have a version of that. And then after launching that, I joined like $10,000 high level mastermind. My audience has heard this before, that whenever I say high level, I just mean expensive. That's in marketing language. It's usually what it amounts to. But the thing I really got out of that was anytime we ever brought a question to mastermind with our peers, the woman who ran the mastermind, her question would always be, how does this fit into your customer journey? And when I joined the mastermind, I did not know what a customer journey was. So I was always like, I don't know, like you tell me. And she's like, no, that's not going to cut it. We got to figure this out, right? So your customer journey is, how's your audience finding you? How do they get warmed up to you? At what point in this process of them reading and learning your content, listening to your podcast, do they reach out to schedule a consultation, to fill out an inquiry, to join your course, to sign up for your webinar, whatever it is that you do? How do you convert them once they become a student? Do you have any upsells? All that kind of stuff. And I think once you, this is why in my course, Unfuck Your Systems, also only available to my UFYB alumni students, I teach about customer journey in the best way that I can, because I think a lot of people overlook that. And of course, now I'm in a different high level program for course creators as well. And it's always a journey. Every time I launch my own course, I invest in another course because my goal is to do some kind of education every quarter. Yeah.
Raise my hand right here. There's a delay. No, I think, and sorry to interrupt Brenda or Gabby, but just to kind of follow up or question, comment, but like for your listeners, especially if they're just, hearing about the bundle. So on one hand, it's like we want to make the most of it and get our education on, be focused on what we want to learn. On the other hand, is to kind of not be overwhelmed and also being able to just take it one step at a time, having the clarity. So more of just an observation, I would say, is like, what would we say to those that are right now? Like, I'm already taking 5 other courses and sure, it's this price, I'll get it. It's not going to break the bank. How do we actually fit that into our existing schedule, whether it's our existing education, the things we got to do in our business, personal family time. So advice for I guess, your listeners, Braden, from us, like, what would that be as far as how do you tangibly, if that's even a word, go about approaching this bundle into an existing lifestyle and business?
I love that question. I definitely have some of my own thoughts, but I would love to hear, Brenda, like, what would you say to that question? She's like, Jesus, put me on the spot.
I am the wrong person to ask because I am running out of time every single day.
I was like, do you just sign up for everything?
Well, and I'm juggling, motherhood as well, and all the renovating our house and all the fun things that go with that. It's challenging. I think for me, the way I look at the bundle is, if you are looking at this and all these courses and thinking, I do not have time to fit all of this in, well, guess what? You don't have to. If there's 1 or 2 great things in there, you got more than your money's worth, and you can schedule those in as the time fits into your schedule. But I don't think you have to look at it and think, how am I going to fit all of these in? You don't have to. Just because there are 30 courses or 30 offerings in it doesn't mean that everything in there is going to be for you. I think if there are a couple of great tools that you can find that are going to probably make your life easier and more efficient, so you'll actually, while there's a little initial investment of time, you're probably going to claw more time back as a result of knowing how to do these things more efficiently. I think that there's a little bit of a mindset or perspective shift there that's necessary.
Yeah, agreed for sure. Another tip I would give everyone is, when you sign up, Renee has a really awesome tracker that she gives you. It's a Google sheet that you can clone. And in there you put like the link for each course, your login information, then you have it all in one spot. So what I like to do is I'll usually pick like 1 or 2 courses to go through right away, again, depending on how long they are. And then I save the login for everything else. So for me, if I'm like, I'll put myself in my one-on-one service-based business owner shoes from a couple of years ago. If I'm thinking, oh, I know that in Q3 of this year, I want to redo like my customer onboarding sequence or like a marketing campaign. So I'm definitely going to want some email help. So I'm going to save the email marketing courses and maybe I'll go through that then. Or maybe I'll just log in and hope that they have some really awesome swipe templates. Because for me, I've been known to buy courses just for email swipe copy. It's usually fantastic. But that's the nice thing is you can sit there and maybe, 2 months from now you attend like an online Tuesdays Together event and someone's preaching about how important Pinterest marketing is in your business. Well, you know what? Maybe I didn't have the time before, but I still have the login information for Gabby's course. Like now's the time that I'm going to go through that. The other thing I would tell people is maybe you don't know what you want to learn. Maybe you don't know what's going to fit in your business best right now. Open up 10 of them and watch the first video. And then if you want, you can just finish. You can do the courses based on which ones seem the most interesting, which educators sound the least irritating, however you want to do it. If someone signs up for my course and they're like, God, I cannot handle this guy, that's totally fine. There's 29 other things that they can do, right? That's how I think about it. I don't know.
Braden, you said, you brought up a good point where you're going to be purchasing some courses for your team. And so that's another way to tackle it. If you were to buy 3 of these bundles and say, hey, I'm going to do, 1, 2, 3, 4 video educators, you do 5, 6, 7, 8, or obviously pick the ones that are relevant to your business. But it's a great way if you think a team member, like you as a CEO, you maybe don't need to learn all of the things. Like if in your case, Braden, if your VA is doing Pinterest, have them watch my Pinterest course. There's no need for you to learn how to use Tailwind necessarily, right? So delegating that is going to feel a lot less overwhelming. And I really loved your idea about buying it for your team. I mean, we're talking about several $1,000s worth of content. This is the chance to literally buy more than one and support the educators that are putting this content out and having your team learn.
Yeah, the nice thing is like if I require them to go through any courses, I will compensate them for the time it takes them to do that. But also I'm going to be buying it just as kind of like a perk. So my one VA, I can tell you, she's probably going to go through all of them because she actually bought the last bundle last time and went through most of the courses anyway. She'll definitely go through Brenda's course. Henry, I don't know if any of my 3 VAs will opt to go into your course, but I'm probably going to pay one of them to take it and implement it for me. Or maybe I actually might do that one because I'm interested to see what happens. And then I have a VA. What?
I'm sorry. I said the course is only 20 hours. So no, I'm just kidding. It's like an hour and a half, but you actually will get a template too. So it's a template and a course. So
nice.
Kind of like the essentials. And to your point about VAs, like I'm looking to hire a few. So what better time now than to create something that even my potential VAs can go through, as well as, other team members across, our industry.
Yeah, I'm all about systems. I make SOPs, standard operating procedures for everything. So we have a Pinterest standard operating procedure, right? We have standard operating procedures for weekly emails. But this is a nice thing. Once you start to hire, I'll say, you know what? I want to look into whether we should start using Tailwind communities in our Pinterest workflow. So take Gabby's course, figure it out. And then once you learn from Gabby, I want you to figure out how that will work into our Pinterest workflow. And then you're going to update the standard operating procedure, which is like a great way to operate it. I know that when I say things like that, it freaks out a lot of people in my audience because they think that's like super advanced stuff. Not necessarily. Like I have VAs that do 2 hours of work, like 2 hours of work per week for me. It's not like I'm paying them as like full-time employees or anything. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. SOP is like fancy word for a Google Doc, right?
Yeah, but all of our SOPs are on a Google Doc. I mean, the thing about an SOP is some of it can be super, super complicated, but others are super simple. Like we have an SOP for my Facebook group approvals. And basically the SOP says you log into Facebook, you click here, add their email to our email list if they're not already on there, and then you accept them and then like do one more thing, right? It's like super simple. But this way I have one VA that normally does it. If she's on vacation or stuck in a blizzard, like a lot of people are right now, I can ask my other VA, hey, can you do this? They say, oh, I don't know how to do that. And I'm like, don't worry, we have an SOP. Just follow the instructions. Easy peasy. And then I can continue to be lazy and like not have to worry about it, right? It's one of the nice things about being the CEO of your own business. Okay, so let's start to wrap up. This was super, super fun. If any of you are listening and you want to go check out the bundle next week, we have a wait list. So just DM me on Instagram at Braden Adam Drake. Say, hey, I want the bundle waitlist link. Awesome. I will also be emailing my email list about it. I'm sure I will be talking to Henry on Clubhouse for sure, and Gabby and Brenda. I think all 4 of us are over there all the time during the bundle week, which will be fun. Last question. You all probably know what's coming. My Facebook group is called Braden's Besties. I do free Facebook Live Q&As in there every week. If everyone would like to become your besties, so Brenda, if someone wants to be Brenda's bestie, where should they go and do that? How should they follow you?
The easiest thing to do is to go to howtousecanva.com, and that's going to forward you to our Facebook community called Canva and Websites Made Simple. And there's about 4,700 of us over there now, and the community is growing, and that's probably the best place to start.
Score on that domain, Brenda. Good work.
Oh, as soon as I saw that was available a handful of years ago, I thought, I don't know how I'm going to use this, but I'm going to use this.
Nice. Just yeah, I'm also a domain hoarder. I support that.
Oh, I have more than I care to admit to.
Yeah, love it. Okay, what about you, Gabby? How can people become Gabby's besties?
I would say come over on Instagram. It's at Gabby Pinkerton, and we do weekly lives answering your Pinterest questions. So every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Pacific. You can also get in my free Facebook group, and I can send you the link to that. But I think the easiest way to connect would be over on Instagram at Gabby Pinkerton.
Awesome. Thank you, Gabby. All right, what about you, Henry?
Well, Braden, if you are on iOS, if you're not already on Clubhouse, hopefully you'll join one of our clubs, but just go to wedpros.club. That actually redirect you to a little messenger concierge. You'll have more information about, of course, chat marketing, but also about the Wedding Pros Club. So if not, you can just send me a DM on Instagram, HenryChen1.
Beautiful. And I heard, before we wrap up here real quick, I heard the most amazing Clubhouse hack on Amy Porterfield's podcast last week. This came from Coach Glitter. And she shared that if anyone's pissed off because they can't get on Clubhouse because you don't have an iPhone, ask one of your friends if they have an old iPhone, because most of us have a drawer of like 3 of them, because all you need is Wi-Fi. So you don't need to have phone service. You can just have them reset it to factory settings, buy it off your friend for $50, download the Clubhouse app, and just have an iPhone sitting in your desk drawer if you want to be hanging out on Clubhouse until, it gets Android approved or built, or Brenda, I don't know how the technology works, but
Just make sure though that you get one that is new enough that it can update to the iOS version that you need for Clubhouse. I literally upgraded my phone in January because I couldn't get on Clubhouse. So I figured that was the universe telling me it was time to upgrade my device. I'm one of these people, I am not an early adopter when it comes to my mobile devices.
Yeah,
and this
me
was
either.
A 6? I think it was a 6. So
I used to be an early adopter, but now I'm like, I don't even know how to use the camera I already got. Like, why do I need 18 more lenses on, like, do they even call them lenses?
Exactly.
I don't know. Camera holes on the back of my phone. I'm not going to know how to work them all. I don't need a new, rant over. Okay. Weird way to end the podcast, but thanks again, Brenda, Gabby, Henry, for coming on. Super appreciate it, and hope that you have a great day.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much, Braden. To see Brenda, Gabby, everyone.
Hey there, before you go, I wanted to give a quick thanks. Thanks so much for tuning into the show. If you loved it, I would love for you to take a screenshot of the episode or snap a quick selfie while you are listening. Share it on social and give me a tag. It'll help other kick-ass entrepreneurs like yourself find the show. That's it for today. I'll be back soon with a new episode. Meanwhile, let's roll up our sleeves and unfuck that biz.